The New York City Council has passed legislation giving non-citizens the right to vote in municipal elections. Outgoing Mayor Bill de Blasio has criticized the bill, but says he will likely respect the council's decision. If he does not act on it in the next 30 days, the bill will become law, making New York the largest city to legalize voting for some non-citizens. For more, let's bring in New York City Council member Ydanis Rodriguez. Councilman Rodriguez, thanks for being here. So you proposed this legislation last year. You've been leading efforts to get it passed, but critics question its legality. And your colleague on the council, Democrat Robert Holden, has called it far-fetched, saying, quote, citizenship and voting have always been tied together. But Councilman Rodriguez, this legislation doesn't impact all immigrants, right? Explain that for us.
Well, Lana, the reality is that when we created the U.S. state constitution, from that day on, April 1777, to the Civil War, it was not required to be citizens in order to vote in local elections. Our independence only have 249 years. So we have a lot to do to continue expanding voting rights, not only for the present, but also for the future generation. It is time for us to restore voting rights to those great New Yorkers who pay the taxes, that have green cards, working permits, to also elect their mayor and other leaders across the city of New York.
So which non-citizens would be able to have rights to vote? Explain that for us.
There's going to be close to 1 million New Yorkers that they have green cards, that they have working permits, who will be able. Those individuals, they come from Europe, they come from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America. They are hardworking individuals. They are not only individuals that we can look at the city of New York, and that's why what we would do now in the city of New York is going to be a role model to the whole nation, because we have a lot of farmers, we have a lot of workers throughout the whole nation. And at the time when in Texas, the Trump supporters are trying to review voting rights. Here in New York City, we're showing the other way on how we're doing here in the city and in the state of New York.
So, Councilman Rodriguez, some of these potential U.S. voters are, of course, citizens of other countries. Might they be voting in more than one place? Is that allowed?
Well, we're talking about New Yorkers, and those New Yorkers who are here, as New Yorkers already have a great population of individuals like me, that I live with green card from 83 to 2000. And during those years, I came here, as Lin-Manuel say, immigrant get the job done. So I came here to wash dishes, to work in a factory, to be a liberal taxi, to be a student activist, to be a teacher, co-founder to a school. And when I compare myself during the year that I was with green card, and then after I put it together a conference that I brought Hillary Clinton as a keynote speaker, Raul decided to speak about how it is important for us to fight and work for workers' rights. I figured out that we have a responsibility to give the dignity and respect to those New Yorkers who we are close to 40% born and raised in another country. So this is not about creating anything new. This is about restoring the rights of individuals to be able to vote. And those individuals have the right since April 9, 1777 to the Civil War in the 1888.
I think it's very interesting, your personal background. As you mentioned, you came here as a green card holder. You were paying taxes at a recent city council meeting. You shot back at critics saying if people have a problem with this, then they should move to another town or another country that has not been built by immigrants. But to play devil's advocate here a little bit, there is concern that this bill could shift power dynamics and potentially impact other vulnerable communities. What's your take on that argument, and how do you think this bill is going to ultimately benefit the community?
And Lana, an issue shift power dynamic, not only in New York City, but in the whole nation. There are a lot of individuals and millions of people living in the shadow. When there's an election going on in the city of New York, candidates believe and they feel that they only have to go and dance quebradita, merengue, bachata, and eat the food in order to show the respect to those communities. From now on, those candidates, they will have to go to the underserved community, discuss a platform, as they do the same thing in the upper and middle class. What a lot of people are afraid and they have fear is that this is a political decision. This is not a legal decision. The federal law already says that it is a must to be citizen to vote in federal election. But the federal law also says that the state and the city are the one that has the power to decide who voted. And by the way, Mayor de Blasio cannot be playing both sides because his legislative team revised this bill before we move forward. As the New York City Law Department, as the council lawyer, as the lawyer of the city council, and all of us. So, this is about not only a lot of people have fear because they know that what happened in New York City became a role model to everyone. And at the time, where those most conservative individuals are trying to push the agenda in Texas, the same people who worked with Donald Trump when they did the riots in D.C., they know that New York City will be going through a state after state, showing all their brothers and sisters that they have the right, and hopefully, 100 years from now, young people will look back to the textbook and they will say, how dare in the city of democracy, we were leaving a lot of people behind, pay the taxes, contributing to this nation, and not be able to vote.
Well, as we say, it has passed the city council. We are still waiting to see what Mayor de Blasio does. Councilman, I am so glad that you've come on to talk to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lana. Thanks.